we have discussed what is feedback, and we have discussed some examples both from engineering world as well as from natural world. And there are two types of feedbacks. One is that positive feedback and negative feedback. So then you had some questions. That means how do you understand that system is using positive feedback or negative feedback? First of all, whenever you are developing a system, that means it is an engineered system. So it depends on you what type of feedback you will be using. The reason is whenever you design a control system, your first objective is to maintain the stability of the closed loop system. The second thing is that performance. So that feedback, in most cases, we use negative feedback, but there are many cases like flexible structures vibration control. In case of vibration control, we use both positive and negative feedback. Those things are not included in your syllabus. So if you are interested in, you can take nonlinear control offered by electrical engineering department. There you will see there is a concept of passivity. So using passivity theory, we can control that vibration of flexible structures using negative feedback. Again, it can be also done by using positive feedback, just invoking different types of control mechanism. So it depends on you what type of feedback you will be using. And in case of natural system, you can see some phenomena, and uh, you can see some phenomena, and from there you need to analyze that uh, biological system or natural system, what type of feedback is involved in this particular system, so that the stability is maintained and it is maintaining its performance. So there it depends on you how you are analyzing it. And basically negative feedback means, it would be subtracting that effect. That means it would be minimizing that effect, and in case of positive feedback it would be adding to that. And finally the objective is, please mute your microphone, I am getting some sort of feedback. Please mute your microphone. So in case of positive feedback, so basically it will be adding to that, and you can analyze from that particular structure what type of feedback is involved into that natural system. So today we will be discussing what is control. So today we are going to discuss what is control. We have already discussed what is feedback, so that is what is control. So control is basically the use of algorithm and feedback. Particularly in present context, we are considering engineered systems. So the control is the use of algorithms and feedback in engineered systems. So in the present context. So this is the use of algorithms and feedback in engineered So engineered systems means that we make. So in present context, because as I have pointed out that in this particular course, we'll be just discussing all engineered systems. So we have already discussed what is feedback, and now I'll be just discussing Algorithms means it is just control algorithms, and conceptually it is a bit different from the computer algorithms as the system dynamics is involved. So in 60s, 70s, when we did not have computer and high-speed processor, so and at that time, we used to realize these control algorithms through hardware. And the implementation was a big challenges for control systems engineers. So whenever a control system engineer designed a closed loop control systems and got us suppose one control law, then the next objective is to realize it in hardware. If the control algorithm is very complicated, then it is very difficult to realize in hardware. So at that time, there was some trade-off. And when there is some trade-off, then we used to lose that optimality and performance. But that scenario has changed in last 2 decades. Whenever we have that high-speed processor, that means whatever be the control algorithm you have, if it is realizable, then you can realize through software, and that implementation issue is not a problem. So nowadays, if you see control systems, so most of the control systems are actually that computer control systems. So now I'll be showing the different components of computer control systems, and then I'll point out some important features and some important concepts of that closed loop control systems, which is realized in computer controlled closed loop environment. So that block diagram of computer control systems like this. So you have a system. System means that dynamical systems, that is that system. You can say this is as plant. Then to measure that output, we have sensor. We have sensors, and the control input is fed to that systems through actuators. So that actuator feeds input to that system, and sensors measure some variables which are important for closing that loop. That means to get a closed loop feedback control. So now there are some noises and disturbances. So that external disturbances and noises comes through that. So this is that external disturbances, and here that noise entered through this channel, disturbance entered through that systems, as well as the noise also enter to that closed loop system through this particular part. And then physically what happens, so this one is actually your process. I am just putting all of those things in this dotted line, so dotted box. Physically, so this whole part is your process. That means if you see in chemical plant or electrical engineering, wherever it is communication systems, so there are actuators the main plant, that actuators, then systems and sensors. So now we are interested in to develop closed loop control systems, so we need that feedback. And just now what I have pointed out, that nowadays, because of huge development in processor, that means we have that high speed processor, it has very computational efficiency. So we used to implement that control algorithm in computer, in high speed processor. So we have that computer, and how to feed this particular signal. So this signal you cannot take directly from here. The reason is the lot of noises and lot of things are there. So we need to put a block called filter. And then we need that analog to digital converter, and then again digital to analog converter, because your system, if it is analog systems, and mostly it is analog systems, so this is actually that loop, and you close this loop. So then practically you have this block here. So this block is actually your controller. So then you need to give some reference command, so that operator input is given here. That means that reference command, what you want. And finally what happens, finally just by closing this loop, you have a computer controlled closed loop system. And in the feedback path there are so many components involved, that is that filter, analog to digital converter, and then computer. So computer, basically there you can say that it is a processor. There you just implement that algorithm, and then digital to analog converter, and of course they all are connected from a common clock. So that thing, I think it is obvious. So this is actually a typical block diagram of computer controlled, the components of computer controlled systems. So the above part is that process, and in this process you can see the three important things are involved. One is that actuation, another one is that sensing, and here this part is actually that computing. So in a closed loop control systems, these three uh, functions are important, that is that actuation, computing and sensing. So here now I am going to represent some important attributes associated with these computer control systems. So the upper block is the process. So here we can say that the upper dashed box represents the process dynamics. and that includes sensors, actuators, and the dynamical system. So noise and disturbance perturbed the dynamics of the process, that you can see from this block diagram. So noise and disturbance can perturb the dynamics of the process. So the second part, that is the controller block, contains filter, analog to digital converter, digital to analog converter, and a computer. So the controller block contains a filter. So this filter is used to remove that some noises, and sometimes we use also some the signal conditioning circuits, analog to digital converter, digital to analog converter, a computer, so computer, or you can say that processor that implements the control algorithm. So I'm telling you again, if you'd like to implement your control algorithm in hardware, yes, you can do that, but it restricts you, because if your control algorithm is complicated, then it is very difficult to realize using some circuit. But if you'd like to implement in software, then whatever be the algorithm, if it is realizable, then you can implement it. So nowadays, because of high-speed computer processor, we use these computer controlled systems, because implementation of algorithms is very easy. As I have pointed out, in this particular closed loop control systems, three important tasks are involved. One is sensing, computing, and actuation. So three important tasks are involved. Three important tasks are involved: sensing, computing, and actuation. Computing and actuation. So these concepts are very important, because if somebody somebody may ask you, and actually these are very common questions asked in interview and everywhere. That means, what do you think by control systems? So these are actually that main attributes, so you need to point out. The second thing is, the uncertainty enters through noise. Uncertainty enters through noise, disturbance, and model dynamics. So that model dynamics means, as I think yesterday I have mentioned in lecture 1 and lecture 2, that means whenever you would like to design a control system, so you consider a model and mostly you consider all the nominal conditions. But whenever that system runs, because of that environmental conditions, changes in environment, aging, etc., you know, those model parameters are no longer valid. Valid means, you know, the actual value is different from the value that you have considered. So it introduces that uncertainty in the through the model dynamics. The algorithm that computes the control action as a function of the sensor values is called control law. So as a control system engineer, so this is actually our main task. That means to design a control law. So what is that control law? The algorithm that computes the control action. So this control action is needed to stabilize the whole closed loop system as well as to achieve some performances. So control action as a function of the sensor values, as a function of the sensor values. I hope you understand why I am telling it is sensor values. The reason is the sensor values is coming into picture because we are considering that feedback. So is called control law. So as a control systems engineer, your job is to design one control law, and if you can make it as optimal, so that is fantastic. But at least you need to ensure that the system would be stable and some sort of performance would be satisfied. So as control systems engineer, our objective is to design that control law. So now, in lecture 1, we have already discussed, that means how we see that control systems engineering. So control systems engineering relies on and shares tools from physics. That means whenever you would like to have a model, mathematical models, and also we share tools from computer science in terms of that informations and software, and from operation research. So operation research, we use optimization, probability theory, game theory, etc., to design an optimal control law. So basically that control engineering relies on, so these concepts are very important because it actually gives you the main philosophy of control systems. So in control systems, it is just not like solving some problems, but you need to understand how that control algorithm works and what is the concept of system theory and how that concept of system theory and control, they are clubbed. So we are discussing those things. So control theory engineering relies on and shares tools from physics. So that is the dynamics and modeling, because at the end of the day you have to design a controller for a physical systems, and whenever you'll be considering physical systems, so all those laws of physics and everything are involved in there. So you need to consider those things. Then computer science. that is that information and software and operation research. So from operation research, we use optimization, game theory, and probability theory. So that is that optimization. So here, I would like to mention one thing. So nowadays, as I have pointed out in lecture 1, that means the concept of cyber physical systems came. So there you have that physical system and you need to establish a communication through that cyber world. That means your controller is somewhere, your physical plant is somewhere, you have designed control law and implemented it, and that control law is sent through that communication channel and it acts on that physical system. So then what happens? Your controller, it is in decentralized fashion, and your physical systems, it is far away from your controller. In between, you have that communication medium. So you need that cyber security. So a lot of things are involved nowadays. That means if you would like to control a system, a complex systems, so control systems engineer should be there. That means anyway, you cannot neglect control systems engineer, because at the end of the day, the final control law will be developed by that control systems engineer. Along with, you need computer engineers, you need cyber security, you need communication engineers. So lot of expertises are needed to design a closed loop control systems, as it is very complex nowadays. So it is actually in multidisciplinary nature. So that means people, when you'll be dealing with that cyber physical systems, it is not just a task of only control systems engineer. It is a task of many. So now, the other aspect is that control oriented modeling is input output modeling that gives many new insights related to the behavior of system. So that thing we'll be studying later. That means the modeling part. And here you see this is control oriented modeling. That means modeling can be done in many ways, but whenever you'd like to analyze the system dynamics and you'd like to design a controller, that modeling should be a control oriented modeling. It is that input output modeling. So control oriented modeling is input output modeling. Is input output modeling that gives many new insights, related to the behavior of system. And just now I have pointed out that means these control algorithms are modern control algorithms for engineering systems are implemented in software. So modern control algorithms for engineering. So engineering systems means that we make. are implemented in software. So now you may have confusion regarding this software, because you have that idea of software from computer science, but these control algorithms and software conceptually a little bit different, as the system dynamics is involved, and the implementation, it is a real-time implementation, because you have designed that control law and we are telling it is control algorithms, and the implementation through that software, it involves that system dynamics. So that is actually the big difference with that computer software. So I hope now onwards you won't be having any confusion regarding that control algorithm software and the traditional computer software. So they are a little bit different. The difference comes from the systems dynamics point of view. So the control algorithm and software are very different from traditional computer software. Because of the central role of the dynamics of the system and real-time implementation, real-time nature of implementation. So these are actually that important aspects, the attributes of closed loop computer control systems. So let us see what we have discussed now. So we have drawn that closed loop computer control systems. So mainly there are two blocks. The upper block is that process and the lower block is controller. That process block contains actuators, systems and sensors, and controller block contains that filter, analog to digital converter, computer and digital to analog converter. And here there are some attributes. So the main important thing is, in all closed loop control systems, the three important tasks are involved, that is that sensing, computing and actuation. And that uncertainty is also very important point. That means that uncertainty enters through the disturbance, noise and model dynamics. And what is control law? We have seen that, the algorithm what we develop to stabilize that system and to achieve performance, that is actually that control law. And this control algorithm and software is very different from the traditional computer software. The reason is it involves that system dynamics, the dynamics of that systems. So now we are going to see the different structures of control systems. So just now we have shown the feedback control system, and in lecture 1 we have discussed the another structure that is called that open loop system, that is non-feedback system. So there are three different control structures. So one structure is that open loop control, and so open loop control is that non-feedback systems we have already discussed. Then that closed loop control systems, so this is open loop control, closed loop control, and another structure is there which is called feed forward control. This control structure, understanding these control structures are very important. The reason is, as a control systems engineer, you need to decide which structure is to be chosen. There are many examples we have seen in case of feedback system. In case of these feedback systems, we have seen there are various types of systems from physical systems, engineered systems, and some natural systems. But in some cases, we also use that open loop control. This open loop control. So can you tell me any example of open loop control? You can unmute your mic and give your answer. Anyone? Open loop control, any example of open loop control? Is there anybody?
Sir, what would be the difference between an open loop control and feed forward control?
Yes, that thing I'll be discussing now. I am just asking that can you give one example of open loop control?
Traffic light.
Right. Anything else?
Washing machine.
Oh,
Autom.
from where you got it? Have you collected my class notes from last year?
No, sir.
No, it is quite surprising. I used to give these two examples and you are giving these two examples. Fantastic. Yeah, so it is very easy to understand that washing machine and traffic control. So basically, open loop control, whenever it works on time setting, that means you see in the traffic light that red, yellow, and green. So it is already set. That means that red light, it would be for say suppose 50 seconds or 1 minute, then yellow, then green. It does not take any information what is the load, traffic load. So it might happen that whenever red light is there, there is no vehicles on the road. But as it is run in open loop, so that red light would be there for 1 minute, then again yellow and green. But if you close that loop, so then I think that system should be more autonomous. But anyway, so for that closed loop control, again, you need to do a lot of things. So in that case, what you need to do, you need to put a camera there, and then each and every time sample, you need to analyze how many cars are there. So that means you need to go for a huge computing, some image processing things are involved. And then based on that number of cars, you'll be taking decision. That means how much time the red light would be there. So accordingly, just by closing that feedback loop, you can make that system autonomous. So it is very easy to understand. That means at present, whenever you see in the road, that traffic traffic signaling system. So it runs is actually in open loop mode. Same thing happens in washing machine as well. That means there are different states, and it is not taking any feedback whether it is properly washed or not, uh, the dryer it is working properly or not. It does not take any information as feedback, just it runs in open loop. So there are a lot of examples of open loop systems, but you can see it clearly. If you just run a system in open loop, it is easy to run, but it is not autonomous. And here one important point I would like to mention. So if you'd like to run a system in open loop, the calibration is very important. The reason is, just looking at that output, you are deciding what input would be, and you are giving that input, and you are expecting that output would be following your input. So for deciding that input, the calibration is very important in case of open loop control. But in case of closed loop control, you have seen whenever you have set that feedback path, time to time it is calculating that error signal, and already control algorithm is implemented. So that control algorithm generates the signal, required signal, depending on the errors. Errors means a set point is given and output is there. So at time to time it is comparing the output with the set points. Whenever there is some error, that controller is sending some control input to the plant, and in that way it basically it is correcting that errors. But what happens in case of feed forward control? So feed forward control is somewhat like open loop type control, but here if you have some informations about some disturbance, suppose there is a system where a disturbance present, and you know what would be the disturbance. For example, suppose you have a drum and there is a tap, and in that tap there is some leakage, and if you know that the leakage, due to that leakage, so that much of water will be going out of that tank, so then that much of water you can extra add to that inlet so that the level would be maintained. So this particular concept is called that feed forward control. So the feed forward control is used whenever you have that information about the disturbance. So basically feed forward control feed forward control. So if it is possible, to measure if it is possible to measure a disturbance before it enters the system, like if you have the information about that leakage, this control is effective. So basically, to improve the performance, we use that feed forward control, but it does not affect on the stability issues. So mostly in most of the cases, that feedback and feed forward controls are applied together. So there is one interesting example of feed-forward control. In economics, I think most of you are interested in economics nowadays. So here there is one interesting examples of feed-forward control. I hope you all are familiar with the terms market-based economy and planned economy. So one is that market-based economy, and planned economy. So in case of market-based economy, what you do, so time to time you take feedback and accordingly you take that decision. So in market-based economy, you use feedback, but in case of planned economy, you have an idea about that market and accordingly you make a plan. So this is actually one perfect example of feed forward control. And another example that I have just now given, that is that level control in a water tank. So level control in a water tank, actually one experiment is there in control and instrumentation lab. So those who will be performing this experiment, there you will see. So it is just like this is that tank. Suppose here you have one tap and this is that outlet. There is one valve and here there is one tap and some leakage is there. So you need to maintain, suppose, this level, and water is coming into that tank, that is Q1, and outlet is Q2. So here, what would be that outlet? What is this valve opening? So that this level would be maintained. Whenever there is some leakage here, and if you have the information about that leakage, so then you can add some amount of more water, that is suppose Q1. So that means total thing would be Q1 plus small q1, so that this level would be maintained. So basically this is actually the concept of feed forward control. So just now we have discussed the different structures of control mechanisms. One is that open loop control, second one is closed loop control, and third one is feed forward control. So that closed loop control feedback system, that thing we have discussed in detail, and here we have taken some examples of open loop control, and now again we have discussed something about that feed forward control. So as control systems engineer, your job is to design a controller, but before designing a controller, you need to decide which control structure would be suitable for this particular type of system. So if you have any question, please ask. You can unmute and you can ask question. And those who want, say, 2-3 minutes break, you can take break. If you have questions, so please ask questions.
Sir, in the example for level control in water tank,
Yes.
so can a completely feedback system be implemented depending on the level of water which is above or below the required level.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it's
please
a
continue.
different kind of feedback control which is performing the same thing, right?
Different types of feedback control means what you
No,
want to.
different type of control.
Different types of control. Different types of control mean you are talking about control structure, right?
Yes, like
Okay.
in that case only feedback would be used, not feed forward.
Yes, feed forward also would be used. Here you see, here you see. So this is that level. Okay. So from here you take that information just by using a level sensor. Okay. Put a level sensor. Put a level sensor. Then take this information and then you have one set points. So set points is suppose this length you want, say suppose 15 centimeter. Now take that negative feedback. So here you will be getting some error, and then you put a controller here. Controller, suppose PID controller. That thing I will be discussing say next week. Say this is a controller. So this controller will generate some signals, and depending on this error signal, then there is one actuator. So actuator is a motor, DC motor, like that actuator. So this control input, so here this is that control input is fed to that actuator, and this DC motor control this valve. Whenever, say suppose the water level is more than this 15 centimeter, then this valve will be opened so that more water will be going out of the tank. It is like this. Now meanwhile if you open this tap, because this tap, if it is open, you know continuously that water is going out of that cylinder tank, and then what happens, this signal is coming to that feedback path and error signal is generated, then controller needs to take care of this level. So then what happens, because of this outlet disturbance, continuously that level is falling. So the controller, to maintain this level, controller needs to generate this control input. So there will be a huge load on the controller, and that control input also would be very high to maintain that level because of this disturbance. And whenever the control input is very high, then you can see that DC motor, that actuator, it has some limit. Whenever control input is very high, control input, that means the voltage. So suppose that voltage it needs, say suppose 10 volt, but the motor can run at say 8 volt. It has a limit. Then what happened? The actuator gets saturated. So whenever that actuator gets saturated, then some sort of non-linearity would appear in that loop. So that thing we'll be discussing later. But what I want to mean, as the limit is 8, but controller is giving output 10, so that much of information is not coming to that valve because of that actuator saturation. So then what happens, that level will be gradually falling. So in this case, what we do, if we have that information that this much of water will be going out because of that leakage, we will just put one bias term here in the valve. That means that should not be opened that much. The reason is we know that much of disturbance is there. To maintain this level, we cannot open that valve that much. So this information you are getting it through that feed forward action. So feed forward action is incorporated here to improve the performance and to reduce the load on the controller. Because if you do not use that feed forward controller, yes, it is also possible to maintain that level just using feedback control, but in that case the load on the controller would be huge and there is a chance of getting that actuator saturated. Yes, please.
Yes, sir, got it.
Got
So
it,
like
right?
so
Huh.
so
Tell me.
like there should be for us to use a purely feedback system, there should be like a minimum leakage rate, like above which we cannot only use purely feedback, we have to use feed forward.
No, I want to say a little bit more. You know that leakage, this leakage is not in your hand, this leakage, okay? But you can measure it, how much leakage is there. So now, to improve the performance, to reduce the load on the controller, you are just using some bias term. Bias term means, as you know, that this much of water will be going out of this one. So anyway, you just put that much of water here. So this information, as you are adding to it, so this is actually the feed forward action. Okay.
Okay.
You are from which branch?
Sir, electronics.
Electronics. Okay. If you are interested in, you can see that lab. What the students of electrical and the instrumentation engineering, they will be performing in control systems. So this particular experiment is there, and it is very nice to see that. Or you can just give the search in YouTube or in net, that level control. Okay, there you can see how the feed forward action is taken place. Okay, if you have any doubt, you may write email to me. I will be trying to clear your doubts. Any other questions?
क्लास अच्छे थे कोरोना से सांगड़ा
Do you have any other question? No question.
Sir, there seem to be some more in the chat.
Please, okay, so chat box. Yes, that is why the both are applied together. That means that feedback and feed forward. So in feed forward, we have the idea of the leakage. Yes, idea of the leakage means you can estimate, you can measure the disturbance beforehand. Thus, the input liquid rate is hard coded. Yes, and so the traffic light, washing machine are just timed sequence of actions. There is no concept of set points and errors. Yes. So whenever there is a timed sequence of actions, this is nothing but open loop control. A set point or error signal here. Why should we classify them as control systems? Yes, it is a valid question. So why we are telling it is as control systems? So control systems, the reason is, suppose you have a system. That means whenever you have that washing machine, if you do not give, say that some amount of voltage to that motor, so you cannot have that output action. So this is actually the control you are applying to that system. So that means some amount of voltage is given to that systems. So then that system starts working. So this is actually one control, and it is actually that open loop control. This is actually that input output concept. So in that sense, whenever you have a machine or whenever you have something, you are just giving some force on it. So it is control, you are controlling it. So that is open loop control. Rudra Jyoti Rai. So you get my answer, or you have some more questions? Rudra Jyoti Rai. Are you there? Sir, can there be only feed forward or only feedback? Yes, only feedback means feedback control is everywhere. You have to use feedback control. Now, in addition to that, you use feed forward to improve the performance. But if you use only feed forward, you see, as it does not have any effect on the loop, does not have any effect on the stability, then in most of the cases, feed forward action cannot be used alone. That means you have to use feed forward and feedback both. So Rudrajyoti, so in that sense, can we classify a battery connected to LED via resistors? Yes, yes. It is a system and it is a control open loop. Yes, it is a system. And you can see, that means if you change the battery voltage, then you can see the light, it is dimming, glowing like this. Yes, it is also a control system. It is open loop. Sir, can any stable system be called control systems? Of course, because in control system, it is two objectives are there. One objective is stability, another objective is performance. So suppose you have a stable system, but that stable system may not satisfy your objectives, your performance criteria. So in that case, we will be using feedback, we will be designing one controller to achieve performance. So the answer is, for stable systems, also we need feedback to achieve some performance objectives. So that is also a control systems. Vaishik Mondal, I hope you get my answer. If you have more questions, you can unmute your mic and can ask question. If you have questions, you may unmute your mic and ask question. So Anita James, are you there? You please unmute your. Yes. So Sivansh, your question is, what is the difference between that noise and external disturbance? So from signal point of view, that disturbance is low frequency signal and noise is high frequency signal. Say, for example, you can see here, I have taken one example in a tank, level control of a tank. Whenever there is a tap, some leakage is there, that is actually the disturbance. Whenever you are running a motor, so on the shaft load, if there is any load torque, suppose you have given some load torque and the load is varying, so you can take that one as also a disturbance. And in case of noise, I think whenever whenever you are using your microphones and some other electronic devices, everywhere you can see that noise entering to your systems, and these all are the high frequency signals, and we model those noise using some probability theories, etc. As you know that Gaussian noise, white noise, etc. So the fundamental difference is noise is high frequency signal and disturbance is low frequency signal. Yes. Are you going to study computer-based control or circuits-based control or both in this course? So computer-based control just now we have discussed, and unfortunately if you perform those experiments in the lab, there you can understand how it is implemented. But in this course, we are not going to discuss in detail those processor parts, etc. Because as it is fundamental course, I need to cover those analysis parts. And circuits based control means some electrical circuits will be taking for examples, and also I'll be giving some problem sets where you need to solve some circuit problems from control systems point of view. Yes, we'll be doing something, but the computer based control, that is basically the discrete time control. It would be discussed in brief at end of this course. It will be covered by Professor Arun Ghosh. Yes, Sonika, you are here. So, okay. Okay. So next week onwards, I'll be taking some surprise attendance. Okay. So I hope we have taken few minutes break and then we can start the next topic, which is really very interesting. That is so we have seen so far that what is feedback, what is control, and what is feedback, what is control. So now we are interested in how the feedback affects in control. So then I hope you will get all of my answers, all of your answers of your questions. So now we are going to discuss what are the effects of feedback in control. So now someone of you has asked one question. That means whenever you have a circuit, if you connect with a battery, and is it a control? I say yes, it is a control, but it is open loop control. Washing machine open loop control, traffic light open loop control. Then we have discussed that what is feedback, but now we'll be discussing why we are interested in feedback. What is the need for feedback? What are the advantages of using feedback? So should we use feedback all the times, or only that open loop control is sufficient, or feed forward control is sufficient? So that is actually the question. So here we are trying to find out the answer of these questions. So there are many advantages of using feedback. So the first one is it may increase or decrease the overall gain of that systems. So how? So let's see. So the first point is it means that feedback, it may increase or decrease the overall system gain. What is that? Let us discuss this one. So suppose you have a system that is G, and you may take it as a static gain G. So now if you use feedback, so feedback is this one, and this is unity feedback. You can see it here, the gain of that feedback path is unity. So this R is that reference signal, E is that error signal, and Y is the measured output. So now if you change the gain of that feedback path, so how you can do that? You can just put one systems or make one circuit so that the gain of that feedback path is different from that unity feedback. So that means so gain of the feedback path is H. So then what happens? So initially whenever you have only G, then gain was G. So now you have established one feedback path with the feedback gain h. So now what is the overall system gain? So overall system gain means now the input is R and output is Y. So let us see what is that overall gain. So E equal to, here you can see E equal to R minus, so here this is plus R minus HY, and Y is equal to that G into E, Y equal to this Y equal to G into E. So now if you simplify it, you will get E equal to R minus H G into E. So we consider single input, single output case. So single input, single output case means we are considering all of them are scalar, just for better understanding. So now from here we can see that E equal to R by 1 plus Hg. And what is Y? So Y equal to G into E. So here you can write that Y equal to G by 1 plus H into G into R. So from here you can write what is the ratio between Y and R. The ratio between Y and R, Y by R, so here Y and here R, so Y by R equal to G by 1 plus Hg. So this is the relationship that you would have with this feedback control. So then from here you can see that the overall gain, initially it was G. So now your overall gain becomes G by 1 plus Hg. So it is now clear that using that feedback, that overall gain is different. Overall gain is different from that of the initial gain G. Overall gain is different from that of initial gain G. So it is very much clear. That means whenever you would like to change the overall system's gain, that feedback can help you. If you just make that feedback, then that overall gain would be different. So let us see the second advantage of using that feedback. So the second advantage is it can make the overall system stable. And here I would like to point out one thing. That means if you arbitrarily use that feedback, it may destabilize your system too. That means even if your open loop system are stable, if you arbitrarily use some feedback, the overall closed loop systems may be unstable. So should be careful about that. It can make the overall system stable. So that means whenever you have unstable system, just by using feedback, you can stabilize a system. So here there is one point, that means a feedback can make and overall system unstable, although the original system is stable. So be careful about that feedback. So do not use that feedback arbitrarily. So this is actually one of the main advantages of using feedback, because you cannot do with one unstable system. So whenever you have one unstable system, somehow you need to use a feedback. So in laboratory, we have two systems which are actually open loop unstable. So one unstable system is that inverted cut pendulum system. It is actually unstable. You cannot keep that pendulum at upright position without any controller. So it is actually open loop unstable system, and you can see that magnetic levitation system. So you cannot levitate that ball in the air without any controller. So it is actually open loop unstable system. So these are two examples of unstable systems, and you can see that bicycle, it is basically unstable systems. So riding on a bicycle means you are learning how to keep that balance so that your bicycle would be stable. So stable means, you know, it would be at the upright position and you can ride on it. So that is actually the concept of using controller. So in that case, human in loop. So you are riding on a bicycle means you are in that loop, and just by you know keeping the balance of your body, you are just making that system stable, and you are using that feedback. And of course, whenever you are riding on a bicycle, your eye is that sensor, and I think now you can correlate how you establish a feedback path. So there are many examples of unstable systems. Another common example of unstable system is airplane. You know, it is unstable systems. Without controller, it cannot fly. So control is everywhere. Without controller, you cannot do anything with unstable system. And in that case, you need feedback. So this is very, very important. That means you need feedback to stabilize that system first. Then the next thing would come, how you can modify that control algorithm so that performance would be achieved. Let us see the third thing. So it can make an overall system fast or slow. So it is related to the performance of the systems. It can make an overall system fast or slow. So that means you can change the bandwidth. It changes the bandwidth. So in control systems, that bandwidth, it is typically used as 3 dB bandwidth. We will be discussing later in detail. So that means suppose your system is very slow. Now if you would like to make that system fast, then you have to use feedback control. The next thing is, which is very important, that means it reduces the sensitivity with respect to parameter changes. As I have pointed out, whenever you have designed a control systems for a nominal plant, that nominal plant parameters no longer exist whenever it runs because of that environmental conditions and other things. So in that case, if some parameters vary, then it has some effects in the closed loop system, or in that open loop system. Suppose you have not used any feedback, it has a lot of effects. But if you use feedback, that feedback can reduce the effect of that parameter variation in system performance and stability. which is the most important point or reason for using feedback control. So we'll be discussing in detail here. That means it reduces the sensitivity with respect to parameter changes. That is, it makes the system robust. So that is, if you would like to achieve the robustness of a system, so you need to use that feedback. So let us see how it works. So suppose you have a plant G, that is that system, and then you have used that feedback with the feedback transfer function or feedback gain H. For the time being, you take this is a gain. So now this is R and this is Y. Suppose you are using that negative feedback. So here the Y by R that we have derived just earlier, that is Y by R equal to G by 1 plus GH. So now we define that the overall gain, equal to M equal to G by 1 plus GH. Now if there is any change in the gain G, then what would be the effect of that change in the output? We will see that. If there is a change in G, what is its effect on the overall gain M? We are trying to see that thing. We define that this one as a percentage change in M and percentage change in G. So that is the percentage change in M divided by percentage change in G. So now we can see what is the relationship that holds in this case, that is delta M by delta G, that is G by M. So this is, if you take derivative, that means del M by del G, you will get this one into G by G into 1 plus GH. So finally you will get 1 by 1 plus GH. So this is actually called that sensitivity. This one is called that sensitivity. And now we can see that this sensitivity indicates if there is a change in G, what would be the effect on M. So obviously your objective is to reduce this sensitivity. The reason is, if the sensitivity is less, then even if there is a change in G, there will be a less effect on M. So how you can do this? You have seen that this is that relationship, that is 1 by 1 plus GH. What is in your hand? If you look at that feedback structure, so this thing is in your hand. This H is in your hand. That means if you increase the gain of that H, then increasing the gain of that H means this GH, this term would be very high. And whenever this term is very high, it is in the denominator. And whenever this term is a large number, then 1 by that large number means the overall sensitivity would be reduced. And whenever the overall sensitivity is reduced, from here you can see the effect of the change in G is less. The effect of change in G is less on M. So that means you can achieve robustness just by using the feedback. So this is actually very, very important aspect of using feedback, because so here we can write what is the advantage of using feedback. By choosing a high gain, this high gain is at your hand because you are a control system engineer and you are changing that gain H that you have used in feedback. By choosing a high gain H, we can make GH very large, greater than 1. Hence, the change in M can be reduced. That means the robustness would be achieved. So this is actually one of the important reasons for using feedback. So another important reason of using feedback is the attenuation of the effect of disturbance and elimination of noise, the effect of elimination of noise. What are those? So it can, that means if you use feedback, it can attenuate the disturbance and can eliminate noise. As in lecture 1, I have pointed out, this disturbance and noise is inevitable. That means if you have a physical systems, everywhere noise and disturbance is there, but they are not expected. That means if there is an effect of disturbance at output, you know, obviously it would deteriorate that performance. So as a control systems engineer, our objective is to attenuate the effect of disturbance as well as eliminate that effect of noise. So let us see in detail. So suppose you have a plant, a system G here. So now suppose disturbance enters at output and you have established one feedback path and that feedback gain is H. Suppose you are using that negative feedback and this is that reference comment and this is that error signal. So now from here you can see that this disturbance is actually would create problem, because at output, whenever the disturbance is coming, so in case of say motor, you know, at the shaft, if there is any disturbance, then it will affect on the performance. So in this case, if you use this feedback, how the effect of this disturbance will be attenuated, that we are going to see. So suppose you have this loop, then Y equal to the disturbance into GE. So then you can write the D plus G R minus HY, that is D plus GR minus GHY. So if you just rearrange this equation, you will get that Y is equal to D by 1 plus GH and G by 1 plus GHR. So from here you can see there are two inputs entering that system. So this input R, this is actually that reference signal that you have given, but this D is disturbance. I think something goes wrong, just I'm coming back. So can you see the slides?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. Okay, just
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Yes, sir. It's not visible.
is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this D is the disturbance. D is the disturbance. So now just look at here, this particular term. So it has some effect on that output, but which is unexpected. So how we can do that? How we can attenuate the effect of this disturbance? If you make this GH very high, so if you make GH is very high, then as it is in the denominator, this whole thing would be very small, this one very small. And whenever it is very small, even if there is some disturbance, it has a very less effect in output Y. So how you can have it, how you can make this is very large? Just by using this feedback. Just using this feedback. This is that feedback H. Just using this feedback H. So it is actually the beauty of using feedback. That means if you use feedback, then you can change the gain as you wish. In turn, you can achieve performance in terms of disturbance attenuation. The same thing would happen in case of noise, but as noise is a high frequency signal, so you need to do it in high frequency range. But disturbance is low frequency signal, you have to make this GH very large in low frequency. So we will be discussing those things later in detail. So this is actually called that robustness. So now I hope it is very much clear. That means if you ask me the question, that means whenever we have three different control structures like open loop, closed loop and feed forward, we understood that feed forward, if you use alone, it won't help you much because it does not have any effect in stability, just like open loop control. So now the point is whether we would go with open loop control or closed loop control. So in closed loop control means you are going to use feedback, and here these are my answers. If you use feedback, you will get lot of advantages. So first advantage is it may increase or decrease the overall system's gain. The next one is it can stabilize that system. It can stabilize that system. Then third one is you can achieve robustness with respect to parameter uncertainties, and it can make that system fast or slow. That means you can change the time domain dynamics of that system. And the last one is you can achieve disturbance attenuation and noise elimination property using feedback. So today, I hope you all get the answer. What is the benefits of using feedback? What advantage we can have if we go with closed loop control? So closed loop control means it is the feedback systems, and it has lot of advantages that we have discussed. So now I am going to take a simple example to understand this concept, and after discussing this example, we will stop our class today. So let us take one example. So I would ask you to simulate this example in Simulink, and then you look at the response. So I can show it here through MATLAB, but I don't know if I run MATLAB whether my system supports or not, because a lot of accessories are connected, then it may go out. So I'll ask you to do it on your own. So you simulate this system and you look at what are the responses. So I have taken a simple example. It has dynamics just like one simple integrator. So this is YT, and this is error signal. If you close that loop, I have put one gain here. That is K2, and this gain is K1, and now we are using that negative feedback. So this is actually the dynamical systems, and it has some dynamics. Integrator is there. So now we are interested in to see what happens if we apply that reference signal RT. So RT is that reference signal as unit step. So if you apply unit step to that system, what happens? So this is T, this is RT. So basically the unit step function, this is 1. So I have considered 5 different cases to understand the different aspects of using feedback. So case 1, I put K2 equal to +1. So you can see from here, whenever you put K2 equal to +1, so that means this feedback is unity feedback gain, and this is negative feedback. So, and whenever you put K2 equal to -1, then it is again unity feedback, and minus it would be plus. So effectively it would be behaving like a positive feedback system. So here K2 equal to +1 means it behaves like a negative feedback system, and I keep K1 equal to 1. So in this case, what would be the response? What would be the response here, yt? So I am going to plot it, and I suggest you all to simulate it in Simulink so that you'll be able to see that response, or you can also solve it. So response look like this, and this is that yt, and this is time t. So here this value is 1. So what interesting thing you can see here, whenever you give the reference command rt equal to unit step, and if you keep k1 equal to 1, k2 equal to plus 1, then this output yt is tracking that reference command, tracking the reference command. So how it is happening? Because of that feedback. So here it is not only that feedback, it also depends on what values you have set, what are the feedback gains. Because as control systems engineer, your job is to find out what are the gains, K1 and K2. Let us see in case 2 what happens. So in case 2, if K2 equal to 0, so K2 equal to 0 means what? No feedback. You have opened that feedback path. So basically it works as open loop systems, and if you put K1 equal to 1, so then what happens? If this is your system and you have given one unit step here, so basically output it is integrator. So what happens? The output would be just like a ramp signal. So this is your output yt, and it would be just like one ramp signal. It keeps on increasing. So this is that one value, reference command. So you can see it here. This is a system where if you run it in open loop with one step input command, then output is not following that input because you have opened that feedback loop. So whenever you close that feedback loop, and if you set that gain appropriately K2 and K1, then you can see that output is tracking that reference command. Then let us see the other 3 cases. As I have pointed out, that means this feedback is dangerous. Feedback also can make your system unstable. So this is case 3. If you just put K2 equal to -1, that means it is positive feedback. That thing I have already shown you why it would be positive feedback, because if you take K2 equal to -1, then minus it would be plus. If you take this is -1, so this is -1, so -1 and -1 it would be plus, and this feedback would be actually a positive feedback, and keep the forward path gain equal to 1. So then what you will notice? You will notice that the output becomes unstable. So that means even if your system is not unstable, it is actually marginally stable type, because that things we'll be discussing later. But if you just change that feedback from negative feedback to positive feedback, from negative feedback to positive feedback, then your closed loop systems becomes unstable. So it is really very dangerous. That means if you want to use a closed loop control structure, you should be very much careful whether it would be positive feedback or negative feedback. Let us see the other two cases. Say case 4. Here we take K2 equal to 0.25 and K1 equal to 1. So what is K2? K2 is here. So this is that K2. K2, that is the feedback gain. So in this case, feedback gain you have taken 0.25 in place of 1. Then you can notice an interesting thing. You can notice here that this is time input and time axis, this is output. You will notice here that this is the value 1, this is not in scale, and this is that value 4, and you can notice that the output is coming like this. So output is at 4. So that means tracking is not followed. The input you have given, that is that unit step, but output you are getting 4. Why it happens? It happens because you have changed that feedback gain. So that means if you change that feedback gain, you can achieve tracking performance, you may or may not. So should be very much careful whether when you will be designing a feedback control system. So let us see the last case, that is that case 5. Whenever you put K2 equal to plus 1, that means negative feedback, and K1 equal to 0.1. That means if the forward path gain is reduced, forward path gain means where it is here. So keeping the same gain in feedback path, if you reduce the gain in the forward path, then what would be the response? The response becomes like this. So this is that value 1. Then your response would be like this. What is the difference? And here you can see that the output is again tracking that reference command 1. But what is the difference with these two? This response and that response. You can see here this response becomes sluggish compared to the first one. That means that systems become slow. So from this simple example, I hope now you get all the points of using feedback. That means whenever you use feedback, it may destabilize a plant even if your open loop system is stable. Now, if you change the feedback gain, then you can see sometimes you can achieve reference tracking, sometimes it may be fast, may be slow, and I would suggest you all to simulate this particular system in Simulink and observe these responses along with you observe what is the effect of disturbance in output. So let us summarize for this particular example, case 1 and case 5. Output tracks the reference input but case 5 is sluggish compared to case 1. Now, another thing we have noticed that positive feedback that is that case 3 makes the system unstable. So should be very much careful whenever you will be designing a closed loop control system. And case 4, output does not track the reference input but stable. So we have understood and discussed in detail what are the advantages of using feedback, and we have seen with a simple example, that means the effects of feedback in the closed loop systems. And then initially we have started what is control, and then we have discussed the different components of computer control systems, and we have seen that different 3 structures of control systems, that is that open loop control, closed loop control and feed forward control. We have discussed on some examples of each one of the different structures of control, and this is all about today's class. So if you have any question, you may ask quickly. Do you have any questions? Please unmute your mic and you may ask questions. Do you have any question?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, that mean output track the input only for unity feedback, sir?
It is not always, because if you change that different gain, you can say it, because it depends on the overall loop gain. Okay, for this particular example, okay, it is working like this, but if you have different types of systems, just by changing that forward path gain and feedback path gain, yes, you can have the tracking response as well. Okay, that thing you need to see. But it is actually the effect of feedback. Any other question? Any other question? Okay, I think you do not have any questions. So thank you very much. You can leave now, and I suggest you all to simulate this particular example in Simulink and look at the responses, along with you see what is the effect of disturbance at output. You may take one sinusoidal signal with a very low frequency, or you can take a step input with a very small time duration, and you can see what is its effect at output whenever you use feedback and if you do not use feedback. Okay, thank you very much.